One of the things that really concerns me is that there's not enough emphasis on the changes that have been made in the budget in terms of superannuation and how we're going to tackle the problems. We've been running some training. One of the accountants came up to me and said, it's pretty simple, isn't it, that $1.6 million will be put across to the pension and the rest will go across to accumulation. So it's a little bit like credit the pension account and debit the accumulation account. But unfortunately it's not that simple. One of the issues is that there's an enormous amount of superannuation funds that we're probably not going to know exist in terms of the client's affairs. So this legislation applies to all superannuation. There's a lot of hidden issues in it. One of the issues is, for example, valuations, Maureen, and how are we going to value these things and how's it all going to happen?
Oh, that's right, Murray. The valuations is going to be a huge problem for a lot of accountants because all the assets must be valued at the 30th of June. And that's fine for shares, but where you've got property or unlisted unit trusts or unlisted shares, you need to put things in place now so that you'll have those valuations by the 30th of June. And we need those valuations on the 30th of June because that is what the cap is measured against. The 1.6 cap will be measured against the market value at the 30th of June. We also need those valuations to be able to work out the capital gain if we choose to take up the CGT capital gain relief.
That CGT capital gain relief seems like a simple process, but it's actually quite complicated, isn't it, Maureen?
It is complicated. The very first thing that you've got to work out is what method you're going to use, because there are two methods, the segregated and the non-segregated method. The segregated method applies to funds that are 100% in pension. Unsegregated is where you have both pension and accumulation. The segregated and the unsegregated method have different dates in terms of realising the capital gain. For a segregated fund, that is a fund that's 100% in pension, it has from the 9th of November 2016 to the 30th of June 2017 to take up that CGT relief. For an unsegregated fund, the date is the 30th of June, and that's the date that you work out the capital gain. Now that is provided that you are going to choose this method of CGT relief, because if you choose to take up the CGT relief and a CGT liability is created, you will have to pay that liability at some point in time. So it gets down to the next thing that you need to consider is whether or not you're going to take up the CGT relief. And you need to look at things like capital losses. Have you got a lot of capital losses? The other thing that you might want to look at is that in the future you might have the other member going into pension phase, which means that none of those assets will be up for capital gains. But if you have chosen the CGT relief back on the 30th of June 2017, you are still liable for that tax to pay. Murray, this is the greatest change to superannuation for 10 years. Since we had simple super, now we've got simple super, which is extremely complicated and not simple at all. Murray, you're concerned about the estate planning issues that the new legislation has caused.
Yeah, I think that's a real problem. There's again a misunderstanding that you only get 1.6 million pension. So if, for example, you're in a pension phase and your spouse is in the pension phase and they die, you can't double dip, so you don't pick up the benefits of the 1.6 of the reversionary pension. You can only get the 1.6. The issue becomes how you approach this with the pension streams, because if you take that commutation in the reversionary pension, you're forced to pay it out of the fund, which is a real problem. So that probably strategically you do the commutation in your own pension, push that back to accumulation, and then take the whole of the reversionary pension back into your name, and therefore you've got the whole of the balance in the fund, notwithstanding that it's taxed at 15 on income and 10 cents capital gain. So you can see a lot of problems associated with that. Also, in terms of the general estate planning issue, it's a massive problem because in most circumstances reversionary pensions have been left to spouses, and that represented a portion of the assets of the estate that they were going to get. Now, with that reduction to 1.6, it may well be that disproportionately other assets, the family home, the holiday house, the car, are given to other beneficiaries, e.g. kids or uncles or aunties or whatever else, so that the spouses might be left short in terms of the estate planning. There's also that issue of the binding death nomination under the 2 Queensland cases. Very important that you reconcile your will, your reversionary pension streams, your binding death nomination all together in one total package, and have a look at how that reconciles back to the estate planning and the asset allocations within the fund. So unfortunately you can't build a template that solves all the problems. You've got to go out and have a look very much on a bespoke basis and have a good look at each of the clients and see what strategies need to be put in place to handle those clients' affairs. Maureen, what have we done at Morrows? What have we done to handle the problem?
We've been working on this since the budget actually, and we've gone through the legislation on all the updates and everything, and we are currently going through our entire client base and segregating those that have more than 1.6. We're also looking at what sort of investments need to be looked at. It's a huge project. We've had several mind-blasting episodes where we've all sat around this boardroom and worked out the issues that we're probably going to have. I think the greatest issue for all of us as accountants is the time issue. We do not have a great deal of time. And seriously, every client really needs to be looked at in terms of this 1.6 cap and the ramifications of it.
There's a bit of planning even for those people that haven't reached that space yet as to how they're going to do it and what assets they're going to consider to put into accumulation, the expected growth rates, those sort of things. The other thing that comes up is you probably need to have the deeds reviewed. A lot of firms haven't had the deeds reviewed for some time. And the other complexity is this is clearly advice, falls under the financial services regime, and it will need to be written up by someone that's licensed on a proper SOA. So it's a challenging time. We're quite happy to help in any way that you feel free. But the main message coming out of today is to really do something about it now, and I guarantee you'll be surprised at the complexity once you start to apply these concepts on a case-by-case basis through your client base. Thank you.